everybody, it's Tyler Esselman.
And it's Michael Osinski.
And you are listening to This One Goes to 11.
This One Goes to 11, the podcast where we invite someone to share an album with us that they believe is perfect.
So perfect, in fact, Michael, that 10 out of 10 just is not good enough.
It ain't good enough.
It doesn't cut the mustard.
Are we going to go on a mustard thing again?
We should probably go on a mustard thing.
No, not now. We can I think we've exhausted mustard. We should move on to other condiments if this is gonna be the thing we're gonna do.
I'm into an aioli, okay? It doesn't mix my aioli. That's what it does.
Spread the mayo.
No. Season 8, baby. We're back. We're cooking. How you feeling? You feeling like I feel like season 8 we're just gonna blast off, right? This is our time, right?
I mean, I'm just a fan of our new logo. I feel like last season was our pink lemonade logo. I'm not sure what to call this one. It's like a royal blue with a lime green.
It looks like the Seattle Mariners, like the Seattle Mariners baseball team. It's them at their best,
but with a little bit of radioactivity.
Yeah. If they got a little bit infected with some, I'll get my we'll call this our Geiger counter logo. That's what we could call it.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Mavericks.
Okay, so real quick before we get started, there's a great episode of Law and Order SVU where there's a Geiger counter that is referenced or comes out, and Ice-T is just like doing his Ice-T thing in every episode of Law and Order SVU. But apropos of nothing, in one of the scenes he goes, "That looks like a radar gun," and nobody acknowledges it. Nobody. They just let that fly completely. So here's to Ice-T. Here's to our Geiger counter season. We're very glad you're joining us. Michael, we have an excellent guest today. Who are we talking to?
Oh, my God. Tyler, we are talking to Joe Ruiz.
Joe Ruiz is a dear friend of mine and a dear recent friend of mine. We love new friends, don't we? Joe Ruiz is a straight-up nerd. He's a wife guy, born and raised in Texas, but calling Chicago home for the last 10 years. One of the through lines that connects all of his random hobbies and short-lived obsessions is a beautiful, rad, dope narrative. And you know what? I think that is a great way to describe Joe Ruiz. We met in our coding boot camp through Northwestern University a few years ago. So most of our interaction has happened over Zoom. And look who we got on Zoom today. We got Joe Ruiz. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? Glad to be here.
So wait, have you two never actually met in person?
No, we've met in person.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
A handful of times. The last time we were together, we had an excellent evening in Chicago. We went to a bar. We went to Chef's Special, had a meal together, broke bread.
Monk's Pub to start, and then some Chef Special, some shared home-style Chinese food. Blast.
This is what I know I can trust you because you like to share dishes. Michael likes to do that too.
Yeah.
I'm a big family style guy.
I'm still remembering that goat belly we had, a girl and the goat, a few years ago. Whoa.
This is we can mark our lives in meals shared together, can't we? I love it.
We can, but this isn't a food podcast.
It's not yet.
Podcast.
Not yet. We can talk about aioli and mustard as much as we want, but it's not a food podcast.
Well, when you guys get to Taco Bell breakfast, hit me up.
Okay.
I am the expert. So
okay, fair enough.
I had Taco Bell recently for the first time in a long time, and I gotta tell you, I was not disappointed.
I eat a shameful amount of Taco Bell, I'm going to tell you.
Yeah,
it's the only thing.
Sponsor us, Taco Bell.
It's the only thing open late near me. I have to do it. Okay, Joe, we're really excited to have you today because you have good taste. I know this about you. I knew this about you quickly. I knew this about you very soon.
Was it the Taco Bell that really did it?
That was what did it. Yeah, absolutely. But it didn't take long for me to understand that you are a man of taste, and so I'm really excited to hear about the album that you have brought for us today. Joe, will you tell our listeners, what album hath thou brought before the This One Goes to 11 tribunal today?
Yeah, of course. This is going to be an album I've listened to who knows how many times. It follows my kind of arc, and we'll get into that my life a bit. And it's David Ramirez's Fables.
So I had never heard of David Ramirez before you nominated him, and it was one of those things where you were just like, "This is the one. This is the one that I'm talking about." You didn't give us much choice, which is fine.
I didn't realize it was an option thing.
No,
hey, this one goes to 11.
Yeah, exactly. It's not these go to 11. It's this one. So no, we appreciate that. Michael, had you heard of David Ramirez before today?
I had not. Although after listening to the album, this sounds like. Well, I'll talk about it later. There was a moment in putting together sort of a little information about him. There was a moment where I was like, I know, like now I recognize this. But at first, I was I wasn't sure. I didn't have a way in. But now I've got a way in.
So for any of you out there who may not know David Ramirez or his album Fables, we have an excellent feature to get you up to speed. And you know what, Michael? I'm going to go ahead and tell the people what that is. Okay.
Oh, I was ready to do it this time.
I know you were, but I'm not going to put that on you. You're doing the heavy lifting anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and help you out. That feature is called The Beginner's Guide to David Ramirez's Fables in 60 Seconds. And you're doing it, aren't you?
Oh, I sure am. I'm ready for this. Although there's not a lot of information about him out there.
Would you call him niche, Joe? Would you say that David Ramirez is niche?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, well, I don't want to go off yet. But short answer, yeah, yeah, great.
Well, Joe, in this segment, just so you know, before you make your case for this artist and this album, you get to evaluate our case, or rather, how I do in the 60-second intro, using whatever scale you choose, any rubric, any grading scale, whatever you want to do. We'll see. I mean, this is my first one of the season. We'll see how I do here. But I think you got my time, Tyler.
I do. I have 1 minute on the clock. Are you ready?
I sure am.
All right. Listen closely, Joe. We're starting in 3, 2, 1.
David Ramirez was born in the Sugarland suburb of Houston, Texas in 1983, just days after Hurricane Alicia hit the region. Though baseball was his first love, he took interest in music at age 10 when his dad gave him a Walkman and a cassette of the Cars' greatest hits. But it wasn't until he was 17, after his family moved and he fell in with the artsy kids at his new high school, that he started writing his own music. He started open micing it while attending a small private Christian college in Dallas, and quickly gained his reputation as a road dog, touring the country in his Kia and self-releasing his first 2 albums. His third album, 2015's Fables, released on the 30 Tigers label and produced by Seattle-based indie folk artist Noah Gunderson, came after an unplanned 3-year hiatus and caught the attention of critics, especially with the track Rock in a Hard Place. 5 years later, he would be named the Austin Chronicle's Songwriter of the Year. Is it Americana? Is it Christian folk? He doesn't seem to care what you call it, as long as you listen. If you want to hear this road dog play, he'll be at the Old Town School of Folk Music in Chicago January 30th, and Johnny Brenda's in Philly February 5th, and his new album, All the Not So Gentle Reminders, will be out March 21st. It's David Ramirez.
Damn. Okay, Michael. Listen,
yeah.
I think you hustled us a little bit.
Well, it's the thing. It's like what Ruby did in the Great British Bake Off, when she would always like underestimate herself before the judging started, so that way, if there was any harsh criticism, like she had prepped herself for it. Sorry, now I'm getting real niche.
You are.
Anyway.
No. I know. I'm trying to. What Ruby is that season? Was that?
Ooh, trying to put a number on it is tricky.
You knew. Bless you. You knew.
It's from the Mel and Sue seasons. And it's like
whoa, throwback. Okay,
yeah, it's way back. It's technically season 4, but in America we got them differently originally, and now they're only available on Roku. Okay, we're so on a tangent.
Or
God love you.
You can do what we did, and you have to get a VPN so you can sign into some like Canadian service, because that's where you could find all the original seasons, not on.
Or if you have a Roku, they're on the Roku channel.
It's on Roku, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, have you never seen the Mel and Sue seasons?
Oh, I for sure have.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
They're great.
What was I telling you? Good taste. Joe has good taste.
No, I for sure have. We just recently went back and watched like the first ever season with my wife, and I was like, oh, this is a very different show.
Right?
Oh yeah.
They like took the tint to different cities. It was wild.
Different thing. They've really dialed it in over the years, but we'll save that all for this one. Sure. This one goes to a handshake. Is that what our Bake Off podcast is called?
No soggy bottoms here.
No soggy bottoms here. Anyway. Joe, how would you assess Michael's job summing up David and this album in 60 seconds? How did he do?
I'd say, you know what, we're gonna give it this is for all the nerds out there, a dirty 20, so not a natural 20, but like a modified 20.
Okay.
It's when you roll dice in Dungeons and Dragons, and it didn't hit 19, but you have you didn't hit 20, you hit like a 19 plus 1. It was like, yeah, it was what you needed. It did great. It was one off from perfection. It was beautiful.
There you go.
I will take it. I'll take a dirty 20 any day.
No, it's for sure. I mean, it's niche. I mean, we there's not a ton of stuff out on there on him. So no, that was great.
You're the first person I think to assess a 60-second intro in D&D terms. So respect.
I'm
Milestone.
here for it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, before we dive into this artist and this album in greater detail, we like to ask our guests to tell us a bit more about themselves. So, Joe, tell our listeners, what's your relationship with music, past and present?
Yeah. So growing up, I am also a Houston boy, similar to David. I grew up in a different suburb, but my family is like I have a grandfather who lives in Sugar Land, so like really, really close. I grew up having like such an odd mix of music where it was like my go-to songs were like UGK, which is like, you know, like Houston, like dirty Southern rap, to like Maroon 5 was a big album for me growing up for some reason. Then to like Hinder, you know, as like a 10-year-old screaming Lips of an Angel, just fully not knowing the context for that song at all.
Damn.
It's truly like growing up was like whatever was on the radio, I was listening to it. Like mom would like clean in the morning to Elvis on Saturday morning. So it was like truly just a hodgepodge of music in my life. And then as I like hit teenage years, when you like for the first time, you know, you maybe like get a car or you start like buying CDs or whatever, like you first like get a sense of music. It was like a lot of pop and country was starting to fall off, but then I got really into like heavy metal and like screamo. That took a fun turn. I'm sure it'll come up eventually. I got like really religious and stuff, and so it was all like Christian screamo, which is like a fun mix to like get into, which is like a niche, but like
it's a subgenre that I've heard of. I'm aware of the existence of that subgenre. So clearly it's made it's kind of bloomed into public consciousness in some way.
You know, Christian music is pretty interesting on the whole, but like Christian metal music, it was like one point it was like leading the industry where it's like, whoa, look at them. Those Christians can make some music that isn't like put whatever word you'd like to in here.
It's heavy, right? Like there's something like it's genuinely heavy music, but it's also
and it's like it's very lyrical. It is a lot of emotion and like so much like philosophy and theology conveyed through some dude screaming at the top of his lungs at you while you're like moshing and like trying to knock somebody out behind you and like in a circle pit, like but yeah. So sorry, weird tangent.
Were you a pit dog? Were you in the pit?
Dude, as soon as like one of my best friends, Matt Hamilton, he had like did the whole kind of like Christian mentor thing and was like a big brother, and it was like anytime he went to a show, we would like drive into downtown Houston and go to like Warehouse Live and see whoever and just like absolutely get in the mosh pit. We did Warped Tour.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, we were just like, I was so all over the place. It went from that to like high school, got really into rap and stuff. Also got really into like musicals. There's a point where I listened to like Les Mis a few times through, and my mom was like, "Are you good?" And I was like, "Obviously not. I've listened to like Les Mis all the way through 3 times.
He's going through something.
I'm clearly not good."
This is maybe the most like eccentric spectrum of music I think we've ever had a guest talk about.
It has to be.
I prided myself at like going into college. I was like, I listen to everything.
Yeah.
And usually people like will give in everything but country, everything but rap, everything but whatever. And it was like, no, I was getting on some weirdo rap stuff. I was into like Stromae, which was like this Belgian artist who like raps in French, but it's also like conscious rap. It's like watching music videos, super interesting.
I remember Stromae. That name sounds familiar to me. Did Stromae have a big hit stateside? Was
probably like Papa Ute? It was like that. It's literally the whole song is like, "Dad, where are you?" Like Papa Ute, Ute, Papa Ute. Yeah. So like, well, shocker, another spoiler. That song meant a lot to me. Yeah. So college is like it's just like an amalgamation of like all the crazy genres and whatnot that I was already listening to, and now like at this point I moved from Houston, like a suburb of Houston, to downtown Chicago, and attended the Moody Bible Institute. Yeah, indeed. Where I was like kind of living on my own. I like graduated high school early at like 17, and I was like kind of living with a buddy and just like upstairs and like working full time, and then went to a Bible school, which was like, hey, you've got like a dress code and a curfew and like there's a lot of like interesting life choices that led me there, but like living in downtown Chicago is a blast. It's like, I'm not sure if you're familiar, it's like right off Chicago and LaSalle.
I biked past it many times, actually. Yeah.
And I got there, and it was actually here in Chicago where the guy who lived, not my roommate, but the guy who lived next to me, who lived in Vermont, introduced me to David Ramirez, even though he'd grown up down the street from me. We were hanging out, and my buddy was like, hey, this is guy I love. He's coming to Shuba's. Let's go. And I hadn't come to know what Shuba's was yet. Now one of my favorite venues, where it's just like bar as you walk in, hole in the wall in the back with a little stage, very intimate setting.
Michael, did you ever see shows at Shuba's?
I only saw one. I can't remember who it was that I saw there. Most of the shows I saw were at like the Metro or occasionally, what's the one with the terrible acoustics? It's bigger. Aragon?
The Aragon Ballroom.
Gosh,
that one sucks.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah.
The Riv is the better of the two venues. I think we've mentioned this before. If you're a Chicago head, then you should know that the Riv is the better of the two venues off of Lawrence.
Yeah. But I mean, nothing compares to Thalia Hall. Like what a beautiful venue.
Great venue.
Well, I included the information about his upcoming shows because for me, like I understood who David Ramirez was when I learned like, oh, he's playing at the Old Town School of Folk Music. I was but not just that, but also, and the fact that he's playing at Johnny Brenda's in Philly. So Johnny Brenda's, what's the Chicago equivalent? It might be kind of like Shuba's. It's a small venue that it's like intimate, but it can be kind of raucous if it needs to be. Like there's been some like I think hardcore shows there before, but like much smaller venue. It's where I saw Post Animal play when they came to Philly, featuring former guest Wes Toledo. But knowing like when I heard Old Town School of Folk Music, I'm like, aha, I get what this is all about now.
Yeah, and so that's the first time I'd seen him in school. At that point, it was like a lot of other things going on, moving to a new city with like one other person I knew there, and dealing with a lot of like internal, like, just college stuff, just like figuring out who you are, and also being in a like religious institution was like a fun mix to sprinkle on top. And I felt like I had never heard something. Whereas like the Christian like screamo I was listening to was just like either like very rad, just like hard, like August Burns Red, just like very technical, or it was like For Today and like a very like meaningful, like basically worship music over crazy drops and whatnot. But this was like just like such a unique of like, whoa, hey, somebody who's like me who doesn't have it figured out and like kind of is okay with it, kind of like wants to have like a sense of truth or like belonging or something. And so so like in that same time listening to a lot of that, getting into a bunch of like Chicago house scene community like in college. Like we're in
Joe, you're just piling it up. This is crazy. You're a glutton for music.
Well, here's the thing. I think I've maxed out because like post school, I'm washed up. Luckily when I first met my wife after like right at the end of school, she has so many playlists, like such a master at like finding new music and compilating it into these beautiful playlists. And I think I rubbed off on her because I have like slowly fallen off of like looking. I'm like a kid with chicken nuggets, where it's like I know what I like and I'm only gonna eat what I like. So I listen to the same like 10 albums over and over and over and over and over.
Nothing wrong with that, Joe.
There isn't.
I used to be like a cultured man. I was like I listen to everything. Now it's like I listen to all 6 albums on repeat.
Well, I'm finding more and more. It sounds like this goes in seasons for people, right? Like doing this podcast has sort of forced me in some ways in a situation, and I'm not sure if Michael, you feel the same way, but like by design, it's sort of like exposed us to music that we otherwise may not have listened to, which to me is like just it's an excellent byproduct of this project. But, more and more we hear people say, I kind of went through a period where I didn't have that energy and that kind of like front end of the beat idea of going out and discovering new things. But we meet people more and more now who are like, that has been their mission. We spoke to one person last season and somebody else this season who like they're making a cottage industry out of it, really exposing people to new music. So I feel confident that you may enter another chapter, another season of having that voracious appetite that you had once.
My Spotify Wrapped is absolute garbage. It's like basically video game and like fantasy music from like D&D sessions I run, where I just like have it on in the background, and then just so questionable. Well, just like, man, this is a tough look for your boy.
So you've kind of talked a little bit about the introduction to David Ramirez. So, and you've talked about this kind of very diverse palette of music that you were consuming at the time that you first encountered David. But was this sort of like Americana sound, this folk sound? I would call him Americana folk. Kind of feels like the tag to put on him, right? Was there a lot of that in your diet as well? Were you listening to much other folk music?
Not necessarily. I think it was like after like moving to Chicago, it's like a big like let's reinvent myself and pretend like I'm cool, because I'm not, or at least I didn't think I was. And so it's a lot of predominantly like rap and other kind of more like pop stuff. And so when this came in, it was like, whoa, just like singer-songwriter, I feel like is such a core of like who David is, and that is just like the narratives that this and like Americana and kind of folk gets to portray. Like glad you mentioned like a big another artist I started listening to after David was like Noah Gunderson and some of these other artists like that, and kind of that same kind of genre where it's like Noah Gunderson is just like straight up sad boy, but like other kind of like more meaningful, heartfelt, singer-songwriters that are like have like a story to tell it through their music.
Yeah, this is a sad boy podcast. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I'm angry boy.
Yeah, like, you're right. I'm the sad boy. You're the angry boy. That's fair. We balance each other out well, my friend.
See, but David Ramirez didn't strike me so much as sad boy, if only because like there's coffee house singer songwriter, and I don't think he's that. Like I think because he can get a little loud, and it just feels like it's maybe he's walking the line between coffee house and something else. I don't know what.
Oh, the sad boy was so inflective on me, and specifically Noah Gunderson. Yeah, I wouldn't put David specifically in a sad boy. It was just like it helped me through a lot of sad boy hours for sure.
The Sad Boy Hours would be a great podcast name. It'd be an insufferable one as well. So I will just say that.
Yeah, it would.
Okay. There's a lot of podcast ideas would be insufferable. Anyway, back
truly.
To this.
So what was it? What hooked you? Was it the lyrics? Was it the energy? Was it what part of the package really struck you?
I think it was really like the lyrics and the story he was telling. I was in the same place where I just moved to a new city. I was like dived into a extremely like I came from like you're the only kid who read your Bible at youth group, so you should go into like ministry. And I was like, okay, sure, I'm 18, that sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. And
like moved into this place where it's like, oh, we are like, this is a different breed. I am not familiar with your game, because it was a bunch of like
at Moody, you mean?
At Moody, yeah. When I got to Moody, it was like, oh, like I mean I was like had hood rat high school experiences where I had gotten really religious, and then I had like gotten really depressed and did the whole like partying and drinking and like smoking and all that stuff, and then came back and kind of like, oh man, whoa, the religious era part 2. And which inspired a lot of like really high ups and downs, really dramatic swings there. And so one of those dramatic swings was going to Bible school with I was going to major in youth min, so that was youth ministry. That would have been exciting.
You would have been okay, but let's with your feeling about it is very clear to me. Your feeling about it now at this point in your life. But I think if you would have stayed down that path, you would have been a great youth minister.
I'm sure
is the thing.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's not the path. That's not the cards that were dealt. The dice did not roll that way.
You and I be software engineering. So
exactly. But I think this is also a part of this is going to get really niche if we hadn't been there already. Like I'd switched from youth min as a like department / like major to theology, and so I was really getting full of myself. It's like, oh, I'm a theology major. I study philosophy basically. And so I was like reading more interesting like topics and getting going from like pizza parties to guys hanging out and just like conversing for hours on end about some very niche theological or philosophical like footnote basically. Just like going off on these very small things. So, and a lot of that when I was like listening to David is a lot of like him trying to figure out like, I think he knows who he is, but it's a lot of like, man, what where do I fall in this world where it's like there's, I don't know if we'll listen to it later or anything like that, but there's one line where it's like it's truly the dichotomy where he talks about like kind of like not being able to go to church but also not being able to go to the party, and that was like the life that I was living, where it was like, oh, I'm at like a very religious place and I have some ideas and values that are different than the majority of the people here. And if I said this to anyone, I could get kicked out maybe, or at least like in trouble, or like fail a paper for saying what I believe, which is an odd thing. Yeah, just a lot of like trying to find truth, and I think that's what he does for a while, especially in this album where his previous Apologies gets into it has a little bit of a more different vibe. But I think another hit is Wild Bones. It's like it gives me like a like religious experience singing that song. It's like, yeah.
Well, Joe, you're mentioning all these specific tracks from the album. Would you care to share with our listeners what do you think is the standout track from Fables?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's Hold On. I think that one is.
Ooh, hold on a second, Joe, because we're gonna let our listeners hear just a snippet of it, and then you can tell us more about what makes it such a standout. So here you go, listeners.